Order in the House. The Speaker's voice cut sharply through the air as he addressed the Prime Minister with unflinching authority. I will not tolerate such behavior. If you want to go out now. But if you stand again, I'll have you removed. Make your mind up, then sit down and be silent. And just like that, in front of a packed and electrified Commons, Sir Keir Starmer found himself at the center of what many are calling the most brutal takedown of his political career. One moment he was standing tall, tossing slogans like confetti. The next, he was cornered, exposed, and reduced to recycled talking points. No policy, no plan, no leadership. Just awkward stammering before a stunned Parliament and a restless public. What began as a routine Prime Minister's questions quickly turned into a demolition site, with Starmer as the wreckage. He had entered the chamber looking like a man on a mission head. High, papers in hand intent on reclaiming momentum after weeks of pressure over rising taxes, inflation, and growing economic unease. Rumors of internal party fractures were swirling, the public's patience was thinning, and his honeymoon phase in office was long over. But what awaited him was a firestorm he clearly hadn't anticipated. From the very start, the Speaker's tone was sharper than usual, and tensions simmered before. The first exchange. Then, in a move that caught many off guard, the first challenge came not from the opposition, but from the Speaker himself. Direct answers, Prime Minister. No slogans, no spin. It was more than a procedural reminder, it was a warning. Yet Starmer plowed ahead with his script, touting GDP growth, trade deals, and investment statistics that might impress on paper, but rang hollow to a country struggling with high bills, collapsing small businesses, and creeping inflation. The real blow came from Badner, one of his fiercest critics. With calm precision, she asked, Prime Minister, can you tell this House exactly what you consider a modest income in Britain today? It was simple, direct, and devastating. The kind of question a real leader should answer without hesitation. Starmer blinked, froze, and let the silence hang in the air. Instead of offering a figure, he drifted into a vague monologue about hard-working people, prompting the Speaker to interrupt again. Prime Minister, answer the question directly. The chamber gasped. The leader of the government, publicly scolded like a schoolboy. Starmer fumbled on, speaking of fairness and national values. But Badner pressed harder. You don't know what a modest income is? Do you, Prime Minister? Or are you simply too scared to? Say it. The chamber knew the answer either way, and it wasn't flattering. His attempts to pivot by blaming the previous government fell flat. This wasn't about the past. It was about right now. And in that moment, Starmer had shown the nation that he had no real answers. But the onslaught didn't end there. Badner dismantled what remained of his credibility, turning a single question into a withering critique of Labour's entire economic approach. Starmer stood, visibly rattled, the cracks in his composure widening as MPs leaned forward, sensing weakness. The atmosphere shifted from tense debate to political feeding frenzy. After all, a Prime Minister who can't answer a basic question on income is a Prime Minister standing on the edge. In an attempt to claw back control, Starmer hurled out impressive-sounding figures. £120 billion invested, an increase in the national living wage, an expansion of free childcare. But the delivery betrayed him. It wasn't confidence. It was desperation, facts flung like planks to build a bridge midder while already falling. Badner sensed the weakness and struck again, sharp and relentless. Mr. Speaker, she said, he keeps throwing out numbers with no context. Let's be clear. Inflation is up, borrowing is up, unemployment is rising, and taxes are crushing. He calls it investment. We call it chaos. Then came the real sting. Kem, holding up a Treasury report. Labour's own forecast on tax strategy. Didn't read a word. She simply looked Starmer in the eye and asked, Is it true, Prime Minister? That you plan to raise taxes on self-employed workers after November's budget? Yes or no? The air in the chamber tightened. This wasn't speculation or political theater. It was a direct allegation, backed by documented evidence. Starmer's answer was a stammering deflection about fairness and stability before the speaker cut him off. Answer the question, Prime Minister. Are self-employed workers facing tax increases under your government? Silence. And in that pause, the damage was done. Badner pressed the blade deeper. If the Prime Minister cannot confirm that millions of small business owners won't be hit with higher taxes, then let the record show he is either hiding the truth or preparing to break yet another promise. The benches erupted. Cheers, jeers, outrage. Starmer flushed, caught in a lose-lose trap. Deny it and risk being called a liar when the budget dropped, or confirm it and face immediate backlash. The Speaker's cold verdict sealed it. The House demands clarity, not choreography. In that moment, Starmer's political armor cracked. Gone was the image of the composed leader. In its place stood a man visibly spiraling under the spotlight. Badner capitalized, cutting with precision. We don't need more slogans. Prime Minister, we need leadership. You promised honesty, yet when asked about a modest income, you dodged. When asked about taxes on the self-employed, you deflected. If this is transparency, Britain deserves better. Starmer's attempted recovery, blaming Tory years, the global economy, and Brexit aftershocks, landed with a thud. The chamber had moved on. The public watching at home had seen enough. Then came the most humiliating twist. Fumbling through his notes, he misattributed a line to the OBR, only for the Speaker to correct him. It was from the IFS. The room erupted again. Even his backup facts were wrong. It was a slow-motion political collapse, every slip magnified. Leadership, after all, isn't proven in calm waters, but in a storm. And on that day, Starmer showed not resilience, but fragility, political, intellectual, and moral. He hadn't come to answer the hard questions. He'd come to perform. And when the performance failed, there was nothing underneath. The worst part? The session wasn't even over. As the hush settled, one thing was certain. Starmer no longer controlled the debate, the room, or the narrative already escaping his grasp. Starmer's authority, polish, and carefully cultivated credibility were unraveling in real time, not through scandal, protest, or party rebellion, but through something far more devastating. The plain question, plainly refused. What began as a parliamentary session quickly became a televised dissection of his leadership, policies, and perhaps even his political future. A stinging correction from the Speaker, after he misquoted a major financial body in a high-stakes exchange, exposed not just a lapse in memory, but a deeper weakness in preparation. Competence and focus. Instead of owning the mistake or steering the conversation, Starmer floundered, falling back on slogans, leveling up, fiscal responsibility, building back stronger, that now rang hollow, collapsing under their own emptiness. Badner seized the moment with calm precision, cutting deeper by never raising her voice. Prime Minister, she said, you misquote institutions, dodge basic definitions of income, and refuse to clarify your own Chancellor's tax plans. If this is the new era of leadership, we've simply traded one set of slogans for another. She read statements from teachers' unions, NHS staff councils, and small business federations' nonpartisan groups, all expressing frustration and betrayal at Labour's economic ambiguity. These, she said flatly, are the people you claim to represent. And now they question whether you represent anyone but yourself. Starmer's attempt to pivot to patriotism, I will always speak up for Britain, was met with Badner's cool rebuke. No one is talking the country down. Prime Minister, or talking you down, and for good reason. What followed was a desperate scramble accusations of fear-mongering, Tory fiscal cliffs, media distortion, even jabs at her party's austerity record, but the damage was done. Then Badner drove the point home with human stories. A family-run bakery in Doncaster shuddered under tripled energy bills, a Kent electrician paying more in taxes than he earned in profit. "Are these the working people you speak of?" she asked. "If so, why are they worse off under your government than before it?" She sat down without theatrics, her words a quiet dagger. As the chamber fell silent, it was clear Starmer had lost control, not just of the debate or the room, but of the narrative itself, now spiraling far beyond his reach. In preparation, incompetence, and focus, Starmer faltered. Rather than own his mistakes or redirect effectively, he fell back on phrases that had long lost their meaning. Leveling up, fiscal responsibility, building back stronger. Once rallying cries, now crutches collapsing beneath him. Badner seized the moment with surgical precision, never raising her voice, cutting. Deepest with calm composure. "Prime Minister," she began, "you're quoting the wrong institutions, dodging basic definitions of income, and refusing to confirm or deny your Chancellor's tax intentions. If this is the new era of leadership, then we've merely traded slogans for smoother slogans." She then produced statements from teachers' unions, NHS staff councils, and small business federations nonpartisan, all expressing confusion, frustration, and betrayal over Labour's economic ambiguity. "These are the people you claim to represent," she said flatly, "and now they're questioning whether you represent anyone but yourself." Starmer's response, a tired appeal to patriotism, fell flat. "We're doing what's right for Britain," he said, but the chamber wasn't buying it, and neither was the public. Badner delivered the final blow. "Prime Minister, no one is talking the country down. We're talking you down, and for good. Reason." The moment echoed beyond Parliament. Flustered, Starmer lashed out accusing Badner of fear-mongering, blaming the Tories for a fiscal cliff, even taking a jab at her party's history with austerity. But the damage was done, especially when Badner shifted from statistics to human stories. A family-run bakery in Doncaster closing due to tripled energy bills. A self-employed electrician in Kent paying more in taxes than earning in profit. "Are these the working people you speak of?" she asked. "Because if they are, why are they worse off under your government than before?" Starmer's only answer, a forced smirk, and "we're taking steps in the right direction," rang hollow. Then came a rare rebuke from the speaker. "Prime Minister, in this chamber we do not answer questions with slogans. This is Parliament, not a press." Conference. The benches erupted in laughter and shock. It was more than a bad day. It was a public correction from the chair meant to ensure balance, not pass judgment. Yet judgment had come because it had to. Outside, media outlets replayed the clips on loop, headlines forming before the session ended. Commentators across the spectrum, even some allies, called it Starmer's worst day as Prime Minister. Not due to scandal or outrage, but because it revealed something far more damaging. Under pressure, he simply could not lead. He offered Starmer one final chance to clarify his stance on pension contributions, another policy area swirling with rumors of tax hikes. Starmer refused again, replying, "Mr. Speaker, I cannot comment on budget decisions that have yet to be finalized." It was the fifth dodge in a single session, the fifth refusal to answer a direct public interest question, and the fifth time the room let out an audible groan. Badner rose again, her voice quieter now but no less cutting. Then let history record that when given the chance to speak plainly to the people of this country, this Prime Minister chose silence. She didn't wait for applause or bask in the moment. She simply folded her notes and let the silence do the damage. Around the chamber, Labour backbenchers avoided eye contact, some with arms crossed, others staring at the floor, while the Conservative benches grinned, not gloating, but recognizing they were witnessing a slow-motion unraveling. This wasn't scandal or sabotage, was a prime minister undone by nothing more than a few honest questions and a crippling inability to answer them. Millions at home saw it all. Millions more replayed it on headlines, clips, and social feeds. In those moments, Starmer lost not just the debate, but the carefully crafted image of calm, competent professionalism that had set him apart from chaos. That illusion died on the floor of the Commons, killed by a modest question and an even more telling silence. As he left the chamber, eyes down, lips tight, hands clenched, the damage control machine roared into life. Advisors swarmed, spokespeople drafted statements, MPs rehearsed talking points. But the truth was, it was already too late. This wasn't a bad exchange, it was a political implosion. Within hours, the footage went viral. Headlines read, "Star-stunned, PMQ meltdown, Badner crushes." Memes mocked him as a malfunctioning robot. Hashtags like hashtag modest income meltdown and hashtag budget dodger trended for hours. Even loyal Labour voters, especially younger ones, began to question whether he stood for anything at all. Inside Labour HQ, panic set in. MPs grew reluctant to defend him on air, and local party chairs reported floods of angry emails from constituents. One MP told a journalist bluntly, "We sold the country an image, not a leader. Now the image has cracked." The blow landed hardest when a respected political columnist published a damning verdict. Starmer hadn't just lost a debate, he'd lost the illusion. The illusion of clarity. The illusion of conviction. And perhaps most fatally, the illusion of control. That article crossed political lines, shared by both critics and supporters. The consensus was unavoidable. This was not a man ready to lead under pressure. The PMQ's session revealed more than Starmer's tendency to dodge hard questions. It revealed why he dodges them. Because the answers aren't merely awkward, they're dangerous. His leadership had been built on ambiguity, promising everything to everyone. But ambiguity, as history proves, always shatters under pressure. Badner delivered his pressure with the precision of a surgeon, no shouting, no rage, just cold, unshakable facts and questions no genuine leader should fear. Starmer flinched at every one of them. But the real catastrophe came afterward, his complete refusal to clarify anything. There was no press conference, no off-the-cuff statement, not even a tweet. For 24 hours, Downing Street went silent, and the quiet was deafening. When a leader vanishes after a public breakdown, the message is unmistakable. They have nothing to say, and worse, no idea what to do. Cabinet whispers soon followed. Anonymous briefings leaked to friendly journalists claimed he was unprepared, blindsided, that the Chancellor had gone rogue on tax plans. But behind the scenes, the truth was uglier. There wasn't just a messaging problem. The policy itself didn't exist. Key definitions, like what constituted modest income, hadn't even been finalized. Labour's economic policy on tax, income, and pensions was still being cobbled together like a student cramming the night before an exam. And when that curtain was pulled back in Parliament, there was no wizard, just a man with a stack of cue cards, praying no one noticed. But they noticed. The opposition pounced. Headlines branded it Starmer's glass jaw moment. Nigel Farage called it a masterclass in parliamentary defeat, while conservative commentators were merciless. He stood for nothing, said nothing, and confirmed nothing. The fallout was swift. Business groups demanded specifics. Small enterprise unions wrote open letters. Even financial analysts warned that market confidence could falter if Labour hid behind slogans instead of hard numbers. The man who had promised transparency and honesty now looked like the embodiment of political evasion. Old clips resurfaced Starmer, pledging in 2021 that no, hard-working Britain would face higher taxes under Labour. In 2022, vowing to protect the self-employed. In 2024, insisting income categories would be defined with precision, not politics. Yet, under the spotlight, faced with the very questions he had vowed to answer, he froze. This wasn't just poor optics, it was a betrayal. And people remembered. He had dodged on rail strikes, flip-flopped on tuition fees, backtracked on housing, and now was running from tax. Definitions. The narrative was set. Keir Starmer wasn't a man of answers. He was a man of rehearsed evasions. And Badner, calm and surgical, had just handed the country the proof it needed. In recent days, headlines have been dominated by speculation, with dozens of op-eds suggesting the possibility of a leadership challenge. Labour MPs have remained unavailable for comment. The Chancellor has kept silent, and the political damage appears total. Yet, amid the noise, one moment cut deeper than all the rest, a single simple question. Prime Minister, what is a modest income in this country? Those 7 words sliced through months of spin, PR, and carefully staged press conferences, becoming not just a moment of embarrassment, but a moment of truth. In that instant, the Prime Minister wasn't merely avoiding giving a number, he was sidestepping accountability. And a leader who evades accountability cannot truly lead a nation. Now, the government is scrambling, the public is angry, and whispers are growing louder within the party. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer remains silent, still searching for the perfect script to undo the damage a single question inflicted. But it is too late. The illusion has shattered, the mask has fallen, and Britain has glimpsed what lies beneath. So the question now shifts to the public. How long can a prime minister survive on slogans? How long can a leader hide from the people he claims to serve? Is this the Britain voters envisioned, or is it time for truth to take the stage?